After dumping the People's Democratic Party, former Kano State Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is named the national leader of the new Nigeria People's Party. And as the leading parties in the country jostle for their political future with conventions and issues of zoning, how do we ensure that the right candidates are picked to bear the flag of these parties? This is Plus Politics, and I'm Kofi Bartels. As you may already have noticed, political maneuvering is heating up to replace President Buhari as leader of Africa's most populous nation, but the race remains open with several heavyweights in the running. The All Progressive Congress APC party leaders and delegates have selected a new chairman, and other positions have been filled in the final stage before the primaries later this year for a presidential candidate for that party. There are also talks about zoning, which gets heated up, or which has heated up the People's Democratic Party. The focus now should be about picking the right candidates ahead of the party primaries and the election. Now, do Nigerians go about this? Well, joining us to discuss this issue, we have the National Auditor of the Campaign for Democracy and Convener of the Yoruba Stakeholders Summit Group, Olufemi Lawson. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. All right, sir. What are your thoughts on the entire situation as far as politicking is concerned? Of course, all the parties are neck deep in their maneuverings, and of course the horse trading and the lobbying, for the positions in the parties ahead of the 2023 elections. What are your thoughts? It's getting pretty heated up in the Nigerian polity.
Fine, and I think what we're experiencing is very much in line with the decision of the INEC to roll out its timetable, in line with the newly amended electoral law. You must understand that now the conduct and activities of the political parties towards 2023 election has now become guided by the INEC timetable. So all political parties are now working towards ensuring that they meet every deadline as stipulated by INEC, and that is why you could see these political activities, parties conducting their, conventions, electing national officers, and in the next couple of weeks, we'll be witnessing, the election of candidates, especially by the major political parties that are participating in the presidential election. They'll be electing their flag bearers for the 2023 general election. So the political parties are beginning to sell nomination forms. And I think everything is guided by law, because now we have an electoral act that has created a time frame for which political activities must be conducted. And that's what we're witnessing.
How would you describe the forthcoming, 2023 elections? How important is it to Nigeria? Some have said this is the most important election in the history of this country. Do you agree with that? And what are your thoughts on the importance of the 2023 general elections to Nigeria?
Very important, and we must understand there's going to be another major transition period, especially when you look at the need to elect a new president. We have a situation whereby the incumbent president who will be leaving in 2023 is not recontesting this election. So it's going to be a major transition period, unlike when we have the incumbent run, to return into office. So it's a major transition period, and it's coming at a time that the country is in a desperate need for leadership, whether we like it or not. Whoever succeeds President Muhammadu Buhari will be coming to play a very fundamental role of, either consolidating on what President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to do in 8 years, or, of course, charting a course that will drive the nation forward from where President Buhari will be leaving it. It's a very important election year for Nigerians, especially when you look at the current realities, when you look at the current situation in the country, you realize that this is not going to be just an ordinary election for us as a people.
Olufemi, Lawson, we're talking about picking the right candidate. But before you even get to do the picking, you have to know what constitutes the right candidate. In your opinion, as far as the presidential elections go and the general elections, what do we mean by the right candidate? Who is the right candidate? Are we talking about gender? Are we talking about, ethnicity? Are we talking about geographical origin? Who is the right candidate? What should people know as the description for the right candidate?
2023, it is not going to be acceptable to assume that it's going to be an election as usual. Like I raised, it's a very important transition year. And a lot of factors must be considered. And for us in the Yoruba Stakeholder Summit Group, one of the fundamental factors that we think the major political parties contesting this election must consider is where the next president of Nigeria is coming from. The president that is there who will be leaving by 2023 has come from a region of the country which is the north. And at a time where the policy is so heated, where the policy requires serious, effort at unifying the country, we must be sensitive to the fact that the southern Nigeria must produce the next president of the country. This has been one of the advocacies that we have consistently, embarked upon. The political parties must be considerate, not only in terms of the competence of the character they might emerge as a candidate, but also the need to entrench, national unity and peace that the country is currently yearning for. And this can only be achieved if the principles of equity, fairness is brought into play in the choice of political party candidates for the 2023 election, especially by the major political parties of PDP and APC, who are likely going to produce the next president of the country.
All right. So you are sure that the People's Democratic Party or the All Progressives Congress will produce the next president? It's not going to come from any party outside these two. What makes you so convinced?
Not an absolute, opinion, but I think it's a realistic opinion. The truth is that these are the dominant political parties in our democracy. These are the political parties that control majority of the states, in the country. So it will be, it may sound like an illusion if you think that the election that is just about 8 months away or 9 months can be won by a political party that does not have, structures in any of the 36 states of the country, except the least unexpected happen. The next president of Nigeria will likely be produced by either of the two major political parties. And it is not only peculiar to Nigeria. This is the trend as far as other advanced democracies, are concerned.
Interesting, very interesting. Looking at the politics of the past 24 years since Nigeria made its return to democracy in 1999, of course, the PDP, the People's Democratic Party, had been in power for 16 years. And the All Progressives Congress has been in power for 7 years, so that's 23 years. They'll be completing the 24th year, or the 8th year rather, next year. You've said that Nigerians, you don't foresee realistically any other party apart from these two producing the next president. Are you confident that the right candidate, in your estimation, can come from any of these two, looking at what's been going on amongst them?
Of course, every political party have competent and have credible people. And if you recall, it's one of the bases upon which President Muhammadu Buhari was elected in 2015. It was a campaign of integrity, of change, of the will to bring somebody who can actually, drive the process on the basis of his integrity and competence is concerned. And if you look at the PDP have also produced credible individuals, not only as president, but as governors, as ministers in the past. If you look at other smaller political parties that have also been opportune to govern smaller states, or some states in the country, so every political party has a tendency to produce credible, candidates for the election. But I think the All Progressive Congress, the APC, which is the governing party, should be interested in who succeeds President Muhammadu Buhari. It is important that the process is guided not only in the interest of the party, but also for the sake of our democracy. Because whatever becomes the outcome of this transition will be given to the party as a credit or otherwise. Today, everyone celebrates former President Goodluck Jonathan because of that heroic step he took by handing over power to President Buhari in 2015 in a situation that was never expected from the average political leader in Africa. So 2023 is also going to be another opportunity for the governing party to prove that it is transparent and it is willing to entrench our democracy by ensuring that the process is smooth, is fair and free. And this will start from within even the APC itself before we get to the general election.
Okay, you seem fixated on the PDP and APC, especially the All Progressives Congress. We're talking about picking the right candidates ahead of the 2023 elections, and I suspect you have a soft spot for the All Progressives Congress. So I will come to that in a minute. But you're saying that you've given us your definition of who or what the right candidate is, and you've said that you feel that the presidential election will not be won outside these two parties. But should Nigerians be looking outside these two parties? Femi Lawson, the situation in Nigeria in the past 23 years, since 1999. Are you happy with the state of affairs and the way the country has been governed in the past 23 years? I just want to give me a honest-to-God answer.
So, fairly, the country has not really fared well since 1999 and we returned to democracy. But it's a journey. And I think we are still, growing this democracy. But in fairness,
is this still a democratic experiment, Femi Lawson? Is this still an experiment? Because lives are being lost. Are we experimenting with lives? Don't we have the capacity, to do the things right now? You are saying it's a journey. All right, we seem to be having a bit of a network glitch with the gentleman. We'll try and get back to him. But of course,
even in advanced democracies, there's no democracy that has gotten to the ultimate destination yet. Democracy keep evolving, from time to time, and our own cannot be an exception. We cannot claim to have a perfect, system in just 24 years. But I want to believe that we have made some progress, and we'll keep demanding us
performances and delivery as far as the dividends of democracy is concerned. We are not yet there. No government can even be given, the average of marks in the area of performance since 1999. But the truth is that where we are now is not, where we were in 1999. We must have been.
Are we, Femi Lawson, where we are now is not where we were in 1999. Are we better off or worse off?
We have made some progress. It's inevitable, and that is not in doubt. And there have been a lot of setback also, considering how stable the policy was in between 1999, particularly between 1999 and 2007. And that is why we can no longer leave the business of democracy in the hands of politicians. We cannot continue to wait for one government to come and turn the situation around. To get to that destination, it requires the effort of all Nigerians. But for as long as we begin to think a Messiah will come as president or somebody is coming with an extraordinary power to come and transform society, nothing good or nothing new will happen. Getting the kind of society we want would only be achievable by us as Nigerians coming together to push the system forward.
Okay. All right. So you've talked about getting the right candidate. And you said that the right candidate is someone who comes from the South. Is that the only thing? Is that what Nigerians should be looking at when thinking of who should we elect as president? Should it not be about more than someone who comes from the South? Are there not other things to look at?
Well, every other factor should be considered, because there's no part of this country that does not have, like I used to say, competent and a brilliant mind or someone who can govern this country. But we must be interested in the fact that you will only come and demonstrate your competence, your brilliance, if we have a stable society. One of the things required for Nigeria to stabilize at the moment is the question of equity and fairness in the distribution of political power. And if we don't elect a country that can stabilize, a president that can stabilize Nigeria in 2023, and where the president that will stabilize Nigeria is coming from is very fundamental. You cannot go and bring another president for the region that has governed the country for 8 years in this kind of situation. No matter how brilliant or how exceptionally competent he is, we may have an unstable country, and we don't want that. So the political parties must be conscious of that fact, and the next presidential candidate.
But Femi Johnson, you're talking about stability. Femi Lawson, sorry, you're talking about stability, and we understand that. But of course, after we looked at north-south balance in the country, and the feeling, the mood from the two leading political parties, the APC and the PDP. Then, well, that's in the last election was that we should allow the North, produce the next president. That has happened, and is Nigeria more stable than it was, or less stable than it was? Because you're talking about the fact that if the next president comes from the South, that will be the right candidate just for stability in the country. So, of course, after several years of having Southern leadership in the country, we had a Northern leadership. Is the country more stable than it was, or less stable?
The truth is that the current situation today can never in any way be compared to what we had in 2014, 2015. They are incomparable. There was no situation like we have on our hand here in 2014, 2015. The country, as we speak, is, visibly, divided. The tension is so glaring. The fault lines have become so obvious than it has ever been, even before 2015. The need for political stability and the question of equity and fairness, as of today, cannot be compared to any time before now. There has never been any time that we have the level of agitation that we have today in this country on the basis of the need for equity and fairness that we're having today. So I don't think it is comparable to what we had in 2015. In fact, only a very minute group of people were behind the agitation for another president in 2015. But today, even political actors within the major political parties are, united in the belief that the next president of Nigeria should come from the side. That's the position of the Southern governors.
No, but Mr. Lawson, you're aware that even in the People's Democratic Party, there are leading contenders who are saying that we shouldn't have a north-south divide. Every part of the country should be allowed to produce its representative, or to produce an aspirant, the potential president in the two leading parties. The debate is still on. Even the northern group, yesterday we had them on this program, they were saying that there should be no zoning to the south.
It is within the right of people to aspire and contest from wherever they decide to contest from. But for those of us demanding that the next president of Nigeria must come from the south, we are only being conscious of the prevailing situation in the country. And I can tell you that major political actors within this party are conscious of this. And if you look at it critically, you see that the Progressive Congress is already on the path of actualizing that demand. By switching virtually all the positions held in the north in the last 8 years, back to the south, preparing most likely its next presidential candidate to come from the south, even though the PDP has not been able to demonstrate that. But I also want to remind you that major actors within the PDP, including very influential governors within the PDP, have also taken a stand on the need for the presidency of the country to be zoned to the south.
All right, so, Femi Lawson, so South is divided into 3 geopolitical zones. So which of the geopolitical zones are you referring to? Southeast, South-South, or Southwest?
In all fairness, I don't think we should be talking about.
Okay. All right.
Southwest, every time given to the south, It has always been the Southwest. We had the president for 8 years. We have had the vice president now going for 8 years. We produced the Speaker of the House of Representatives for 3 years. I don't think it is fair to begin to look at the Southwest again as the choice for the next president of Nigeria.
Okay.
The Southwest has never produced the president of Nigeria. Even the tenure of the Southsouth, where President Jonathan came, was short-lived.
Okay. All right.
So we should be looking at this other region, but not the Southwest.
All right. Olufemi Lawson, thank you very much for your time and for joining us. Olufemi Lawson is National Auditor of a Campaign for Democracy and the convener of the Yoruba Stakeholders Summit Group. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And thanks for staying with us. Up next, we'll have a break, and when we return, we speak with former Kano State Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso.